Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see about the Gulf War. Before going into the video, please like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support, and don't forget to press the hype button. The Gulf War is a war which took place in 1990. It happened because Iraq tried to invade the neighboring nation Kuwait. At that time, Saddam Hussein was the dictator of Iraq, and therefore he was the person who waged war against Kuwait and tried to capture it. And for this reason, United States, along with its alliance of 35 nations, they all joined together and attacked Iraq. Now, the reason for this war is Iran and Iraq had a war, and because of that, Iraq was in heavy debt because it had to spend a lot for the war, and it also had to give Kuwait $14 billion. Now, Iraq said that Kuwait actually belonged to Iraq because history says that. But actually, there is no real evidence to prove that Kuwait belonged to Iraq. And the second thing is, Kuwait has used Rumelia oil field, which Iraq said that Kuwait has stolen oil from Rumelia oil, which actually belongs to them. That field belongs to them. And because of these two reasons, Saddam Hussein decided to invade Kuwait and bring all the oil reserves of Kuwait under Iraq. Now, Kuwait is a small, had a very small military, and therefore it was very easy for Iraq to invade Kuwait, and they invaded Kuwait on August 2nd, 1990. And Kuwait immediately appealed to UN, and UN passed a resolution 678 demanding Iraq to withdraw from Kuwait by January 15, 1991. But Iraq said that Kuwait belongs to them, and therefore it had a proof saying that there was a province Basra, and that was under the control of Ottoman Empire, and in that Basra only Iraq and Kuwait were there, and Kuwait belongs to Iraq because they come from the same empire. But it should be remembered that the ruling dynasty of Kuwait, that is Al Sabah family, they had signed an agreement with United Kingdom, and that agreement asks United Kingdom to take the responsibility for Kuwait's foreign affairs, and this agreement was written in 1899. And in 1922, UK had drawn a boundary between Kuwait and Iraq, and therefore Iraq was completely landlocked. Therefore, Kuwait will not belong to Iraq. But Iraq procured casus belli for military actions against Kuwait. And Saddam Hussein also said that he supported the Palestinian cause. And Iraq said Kuwait and UAE had actually produced so much of oil, and because of that the oil price has fallen down. And Iraq wanted Kuwait to cancel all Iraq's debts and also return Iraqi land. So on August 2nd, 1991, Iraq invaded Kuwait and took total control of Kuwait. Now UN declared war against Iraq because Iraq had gone against international law. And the UN also made resolutions demanding Iraq to leave Kuwait immediately. And they also made a lot of economic sanctions against Iraq. Now Iraq agreed to have talks with the UN, but they refused to leave Kuwait. And even after the deadline, they did not leave. So multinational forces, which was led by USA, started air attacks on Iraq. Iraq also attacked Israel and Saudi Arabia with missiles. And Iraq stated that it would follow the UN resolution, but at the same time it said that they should withdraw from Israel all their troops, and this was not accepted by the other nations. At this time, Soviet Union made a 8-point proposal for Iraq to leave Kuwait, and after a 4-day ground campaign, Iraq forces retreated from Kuwait by February 28th. But while they were leaving, they set fire to numerous oil wells, and therefore President Bush declared a ceasefire, and that brought the Gulf War to an end and also liberated Kuwait. Now, the consequences of the Gulf War are many soldiers suffered from Gulf War syndrome, which caused them chronic fatigue, memory loss, joint pain, and other issues. Nearly 2,63,000 soldiers were affected, and thousands of civilians, common people, were killed and injured, and many were taken as prisoners during the war. And about 11 million barrels of oil spilled into the Gulf, thereby damaging the marine life and wildlife. And it is estimated that 80 oil tankers and ships were sunk, which polluted the Gulf ecosystem, and the desert flora was destroyed by heavy weapons contaminating groundwater, and there was massive air pollution from fires, smoke, and exploded armaments. And Iraq had set fire to nearly 600 oil wells while they were retreating from Kuwait, and that had contaminated the environment globally. And Iraq also suffered major losses of military equipment and infrastructure. Kuwait and Saudi Arabia also had a lot of loss and damage, and it is said that nearly $700 million were spent to clean these oil spills in the Gulf. And with this defeat, Iraq had a lot of restrictions which prevented it from holding any nuclear or chemical armaments of mass destruction. And Iraq also lost nearly about 25,000 to 50,000 troops and 3,000 civilians. And US, which was that led coalition totally, they also suffered a loss of more than 3,000 troops. And Kuwait reported casualties of over 4,000 soldiers and 1,000 plus civilians. And Saudi Arabia and Israel also suffered because they also lost their civilians due to the Scud missile attacks, and this crime was seriously condemned due to its effect on military and civilian lives. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box. It will be useful to others. Thank you.